Now, here's your Rutherford weather forecast.
Well, good afternoon, evening, wherever you might be. It's about 7:42, and we're going to look at Francine and its impacts on Rutherford County here. Want to welcome in meteorologist Justin Bailey, who is joining us tonight to try to take a look at the storm. And gosh, Justin, it was kind of a surprise. We've got tropical storm. I think I said hurricane a second ago. I should have said tropical storm. Expected to be a hurricane maybe by the time it makes landfall in New Orleans.
Yeah, this thing really spun up pretty fast, got organized quicker than expected today.
So, I mean, we kind of went from a possibility, this may happen, to now, even our local National Weather Service is saying in Tennessee, we could see some impacts, and here in Middle Tennessee. So kind of maybe your overall thoughts before we kind of dive down into what's happening here locally.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what you and I discussed about why we wanted to go ahead and get a video out tonight and be ahead of this thing now that we do have a named tropical system in the Gulf of Mexico, and we are in the forecasted cone here in Middle Tennessee.
That
like we will
that far out, you really can't tell, right? I mean, where it could go. If it comes a few miles further east, then maybe you're in more of the heavier rain impacts. Further west, maybe lesser impacts. You just don't really know at this point.
Right. That's why they call it the cone of uncertainty, and that's for just wherever the center might be. Impacts are going to be far and wide, away from that center.
Yeah, and you kind of expect the impacts to be on the eastern side of anything like that too, for the most part, right?
Yes.
Well, let's take a look at what the National Weather Service is looking at, and you kind of pipe in whenever you see something you want to kind of land here on, Justin. Warmer weather going to continue through Wednesday. That is expected, but we do have some rain chances. Looks like Thursday, as this tropical moisture comes in, beginning on Thursday. And the National Weather Service in Nashville saying some significant rainfall accumulations are possible anywhere from Thursday through Saturday. And Justin, one thing that is interesting in that to me is it's not like this is going to be a glancing blow and you have one day of this go through. If the forecast models have a handle on it, it's going to kind of begin to stall out and just kind of stay and churn around our area somewhere here in the Tennessee area.
That's correct. It's going to be a multi-day event, and that's why expect impacts to be felt pretty much for everybody. I know we've had a drought running for a long time here, and we could use some rain, but we don't want to get it all in one day. But hopefully if we can spread that out over a period of days, we can lessen some of these impacts.
Certainly so. The National Weather Service right now is saying the risk of severe storms is very low, but again, I think it depends on a lot of the intensity of the storm as it comes ashore, how it weakens, where the storm, the track of what would be a depression by the time it started to affect our area, you would think. And with tropical systems, you just really never know, do you?
No, you never do know. And that's the smart place to say it's very low, but that doesn't mean it's zero. And like you said, it's going to depend really how strong is this system at landfall for how strong are the impacts going to be felt here. How much of that wind energy in the mid levels of the atmosphere is still going to be present to induce any spin if there's any instability able to be generated.
Well, let's take a look at the National Weather Service 7-day rainfall forecast. And sometimes on these maps, there are all kinds of colors and lines. It's hard to find where we are. I just put a circle around Rutherford County. And Justin, that's clearly in the middle of the 2 to 3 inch rainfall prediction rate. But as you can see, it doesn't take very far for you to go in Middle Tennessee to get into some of the upper 3 to 4 inch rainfall amounts. And when you're talking about a few miles here or there, we're expecting a pretty good rain here coming up Thursday through Saturday.
Yes, and we could certainly use it. I think we could handle 2 to 3 inches spread over a 2 to 3 day period. But with these tropical systems with deep tropical moisture, you get one training band set up over the wrong spot and things go downhill quick.
So just expect, as of right now, and this is, of course, Monday on September 9th, 7:47 p.m., that we could expect by the time we get to Thursday into Saturday, a period of showers, storms, tropical downpours, if you will, that could put down anywhere from 2 to 3 inches of rain. And this is a forecast that will change as we go through the coming days. So don't just rely on what you see today and think that that's exactly and only what we get. Wanted to show this map just so folks can get an idea. And when you're looking at radar or looking at maps, find where Rutherford County is. So that's the red circle there. And sometimes when we are on, we use language on the Weather Channel like, east of 24 or west of 24. So kind of know your landmarks. And be sure to share with your friends Rutherford Weather Channel, especially on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch, which is on the homepage of Rutherford Weather. So you'll be alerted, turn on notifications, or like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you'll be notified there. Justin, I thought we might take a look at, from the National Weather Service, that's the one of the models that we're going to take a look at here in just a second. But the track of the storm. So this is the current forecast cone, and you can see a lot of uncertainties by the time, we're talking Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yes, a lot of uncertainties. You can see it definitely wants to slow down, and just that possible path for the center just gets really wide there towards the end of that forecast period. But right now we presently got, tropical storm watches, hurricane watches, are those hurricane warnings? Yeah, hurricane warnings as well. Pretty much from the Mississippi-Louisiana state line all the way down into northern Mexico.
Let me show that to you on our radar here. We can kind of pull that up a little bit easier. So we've got the tropical storm warnings in, south of, I guess that's maybe in Mexico there by the time. This is Corpus Christi area, tropical storm watch, all the way up through Galveston. And then we get into your hurricane warning and your storm surge warning, really along the far eastern coast of Texas near Beaumont and Port Arthur over toward Lake Charles in Louisiana, and really as far east as New Orleans. We'll just have to see where this decides to actually make landfall a little bit later. Kind of easier maybe to see that on the radar, but the forecast, Justin, has this maybe somewhere around the southwestern coast of Louisiana.
Primarily somewhere between the Lake Charles, Lafayette area. Down in Tennessee, that's Lafayette, but right. In Louisiana, that's Lafayette, and somewhere between those bigger cities. I think that center line on that forecast path really gets pretty close to Lafayette.
Well, let's see if we can zoom in.
Looking at storm surge right now. National Hurricane Center is calling for storm surge somewhere in the 5 to 10 foot range in that part of Louisiana.
It's kind of splitting hairs here. Here's Lake Charles and here's Lafayette. So kind of right there in the middle between those two is where it's looking to possibly make landfall. And this, of course, could change. It could be as far west as Beaumont or a little further to the east between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. Again, that's your cone of uncertainty. But this is at 1 o'clock on September 11th. And that is Wednesday, and 100 mile per hour maximum winds. So that would make it, a strong Cat 2, I guess.
Yes, pretty solid Cat 2. And there's some potential it could be a little bit stronger than that, but no forecast yet for it to be a major hurricane.
We'll just
doesn't look like there's going to be time for it to get to the major hurricane status. It's got about 36 hours still to strengthen. And then as it nears the coast, looks like wind shear is going to pick up, and you also get some dry air and impacts from it interacting with land that'll start to slowed down the strengthening, if not mitigated entirely.
Mm-hmm. So this is actually at 1 a.m. on Wednesday, the 11th, and then you can see it's almost at the coast by 1 p.m. So that, I mean, that it's booking pretty good. Now, if it decides to slow down a bit and stays out here in what we would know as some very warm waters right before the coast, who knows? It could intensify a little bit, and that's just something you'd have to kind of wait for and look for, and kind of some nowcasting at that point. But as the storm continues, this would be a look at 1 a.m. on Thursday, and then Thursday by 1 p.m. has it in Mississippi, and by Friday at 1 p.m. up toward the boot heel of Missouri. So my point about where this goes, this is the current forecast track, and we saw a 2 to 3 inch rainfall rates. Justin, if it comes just a few miles further east and kind of moves along a little further east of that track, you begin to put yourself in the heavier rainfall.
Yeah, you shift that 4 to 6 inch rainfall corridor east, pretty easily if it deviates to the right at all.
Well, let's take a look at one of the models. Kind of talk to us a little bit about the H-Wharf and what we know about that. And, there are a couple of tropical models, and this is kind of a different animal when you don't really have good looks at radar and you have to send hurricane hunters in to get data and things like that. How do they use these models here?
Yeah, we actually have hurricane hunters in the system right now, flying around taking a look at it and sampling what the conditions are in there. And we're actually fortunate this one's developing close enough to the coast that from Brownsville, Texas radar, we can see the center of circulation and track it pretty good right now. But the H-WRF and the H-MON are pretty much the two primary high resolution tropical forecasting models. And they do a really good job with the intensity. Their specialty isn't so much track, but they're really geared towards the intensity of a tropical system.
Well, this is the 9th. I'm having trouble seeing my calendar. So, of course, that's today. So let's take it on out here. Here's the 10th at 1 a.m. So that's tomorrow, 1 a.m. 10 a.m. tomorrow, 1 p.m., 4 p.m. So it seems to kind of make a dog leg to the right, if you will, a little bit there, and away. That's why I guess the Corpus Christi area down toward Brownsville, they're going to get the outskirts of this, but it looks like it's going to ride up the coast just almost around the state line where it meets the Gulf.
Yeah, and that 4 p.m., that's probably about the peak intensity right there.
Right here.
And then you start to see that inner core, it starts to feel some of that wind shear shortly after that, and you start to see that inner core start to look messy.
Well, this takes us through.
But it would be the up shear, the down shear side of the core that remains intense. The southern part really getting hammered by that wind shear starts to fall apart as it approaches the coast.
But it just really looked like it's going to ride up the Texas coast and then make landfall sometime in the between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. according to this model there in Texas, as we were talking. Louisiana, where we were talking a moment ago, between Lake Charles and Lafayette. But this is really what we wanted to show you here after it comes ashore. So this is on 9/11 at 7 p.m.
That's a really bad model run for Lafayette. That really puts it right directly underneath that strongest part of that northern eye wall for an extensive period of time. And they're on the right-hand side of it, taking the brunt of that storm surge as well till the eye wall passes. It might only be a Cat 2, but that's pretty rough right there.
I mean, and we were talking about lowland country too. So, I mean, they just don't take on water very easily down in that neck of the woods. So as this begins to continue to track on further to the north, then it becomes a problem for us. And this is on the 12th at 7 a.m. Let me back it up here just a little bit, because we see some of the rain bands as early as maybe early morning hours on the 12th.
Yeah, Yeah, that's actually a little earlier than I was expecting. Models I was looking at this morning had it coming in around noon, but you know, maybe it sped up just a little bit. But
So that's
for anybody
Thursday.
having, my mind just first goes to these soccer games, these JV freshman football games, especially going into Friday Night Lights. It's going to be messy, windy.
Not pretty, especially for those
Not pretty.
on anything on Thursday. So this is 7 a.m. Thursday. We go to 10 a.m. on Thursday, and let me just kind of bring it in just a little tighter and show you what you're looking at here, because sometimes I know it can be confusing. Here is Rutherford County now. So that's 10 a.m., 1 p.m. We're talking Thursday, and who knows, this is just a model that shows us some potential here. But what do you see here? This is one of those rain bands, and they can really put down some rain. I know it's in western middle Tennessee, and that's expected to be where they have more rainfall than we do, but talk about those bands and what kind of problems they could bring to us.
Well, like we were saying, I mean, you shift that just 50 miles to the east, and that make the center shifting 50 miles to the east makes a big difference on where those rain bands set up. You get in those rain bands, especially with the amount of wind shear that these tropical systems contain. I mean, you could have brief spin-up tornadoes in any of those little isolated cells that develop within those, on top of, just the training rain bands with copious amounts of rainfall in a short period of time.
As we go a little further out in time, this takes us to 10 p.m. This is Thursday, now early Friday morning, and it looks like things, well, I guess they may be over, but this is going to come in waves. We may have some dry periods, but when we have rainfall, it could be pretty intense because these are tropical downpours.
Yeah, and you see that even when you look at the satellite, you get those bands, right, where everything kind of converges on those bands, and then you got a little break and you get that next band.
Well, let's take it a little further out here to 4 p.m. on Friday, and now we're dealing with all those Friday night football games and things of that nature, and this particular H-Wharf model showing that there could be some breaks here. You can't really say, oh, well, we're going to be okay on Friday night. This is just a model, and we're so far away. I mean, it's Monday, and we're talking about Friday. This just gives you a general idea of off and on rain, and those showers and storms could be heavy. Right now, the risk for severe weather is low, but again, we get closer to the event, we can actually hone in more on the dynamics that will be around for that.
Correct.
Anything else you'd like to see here as we wrap up? I guess the main story here for us would be that we've got a chance of pretty good, decent rainfall amounts for September. September is normally very dry, and we're in a drought already, so this is certainly going to help with that. And unless we get some really high-end, rainfall amounts more than that is being forecast right now, we should be in good shape in terms of any flooding problems, wouldn't you think?
I would think so, aside from the localized flash flooding if you're underneath one of those bands. But today's Monday, we're still 3 days away from even getting the impacts of the system. So there's a lot to monitor, a lot of data for these hurricane hunters and for satellites and stuff to gather and to put into these models and continue to generate good quality products for us. And the good folks at the National Hurricane Center and NOAA and our local National Weather Service offices all over the country doing these balloon launches, they're going to have the work cut out for them these next few days.
Yeah, certainly, but for sure. This was one that I did want to show you. This is a look at the National Digital Forecast Database, and it kind of gives you an idea of what we could possibly see in terms of precipitation totals. And if you can see there, it's picking up on some 5, 6, 7 inches of rainfall possible down in Mississippi, and this only goes out to Thursday at 13Z. So if this
Yeah,
thing
that's just at the start of it for us, right about sunrise.
Yeah, and we're not even in the thick of it just yet, and they've already had a couple of inches to the west. So that, I guess that's kind of the story that we're saying. If this takes a jog inland a little bit to the west, we could be in those earlier rainfall totals, earlier rainfall arrivals, and heavier totals for that.
Right. And typically the further east it goes, it's also going to mean more time over water and more time for it to strengthen and be a stronger system upon landfall, which means a stronger system for us to deal with.
And
so right now you're thinking west is good. The further west it goes, you got the continental shelf, the waters are shallower, quicker interaction with land. Maybe it'll suck in some dry air out of Texas and get inland quicker, get impacted by the shear faster, and primarily stay further to the west of us. West is good is what we're looking at right now.
Right. Yeah. The further east, the more rainfall, the more potential, I guess, for severe weather for us. And there are so many things that have to go into this. And I'm sure when we get into winter weather, we can have the chance to talk about all the things that go into that, because that's a totally different animal. But, if you have a front that's close enough by that kind of pushes things a little further. So the track, a lot of things can happen with that. And there are a lot of people much smarter than me, for sure, that put all of this together. So, but we're talking about small things when you're looking at 60, 70 miles one way or another.
And huge systems. Yeah. They're impacting broad areas, but yeah, the front's what's actually helped initiate this system. We've had beautiful weather these past couple of days. It was 50 something this morning when I went for a jog around the neighborhood. But there's been an area of low pressure spinning along the coast of Texas for a few days now, maybe even up to a week or so, as this front's just been stalled out right along the coast. And then you had a tropical wave come across the Caribbean, and it came across the Yucatan that is now merged with this low pressure that was along the tail end of this front. And today they merged together and got their act together really quick, a lot faster than anybody expected. But something a lot of people, or that I haven't heard discussed much, is the rainfall impacts on Louisiana. They've been inundated by this stalled front. The whole northern Gulf Coast has for about a week now. They've had, with that low pressure sitting there spinning, from Houston to Corpus Christi, they've been on the right-hand side of just getting onshore flow. No, they're not a massive storm surge, but they've had 1 to 2 feet of elevated tides and stuff already throughout the last week, plus copious amounts of rainfall. And now you're just bringing this punch right up the gut for them.
Yeah, it's going to be something to certainly watch for them, and is going to be our next weather maker. Without a tropical system, we're probably looking at a 7 to 10 day forecast without any rain chances at this point. That's just kind of the pattern that we had settled in, and now this is it will help. And I know it happens on Thursday through the Friday and Saturday, early Saturday, but we could certainly use the rain, and the little bit of rain that we got last weekend, I guess, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, certainly helped with the drought situation. But right now we're just kind of watching, waiting to see where this goes, how intense it is, and the track once it gets inland. So this is kind of what we know, or what we think will be happening at this point, and it's Monday now, so maybe we'll have a better idea a bit later in the week, and we can share with folks. Justin, any final thoughts here before we sign off?
No, I was just checking Hurricane Hunter, see if they found anything interesting in the last few minutes or so, but really no update there. Looks like, things are holding steady right now. No rapid intensification occurring at this moment in time. They're not finding anything like that going on with this system. So
good news.
We're good with 65 mile per hour tropical storm. Got about a day and a half to watch it till it really starts to. Tomorrow could be interesting. It'll be fun to see what happens with us tomorrow.
Tomorrow is kind of the day to watch. And don't forget, if you're watching this video, you will want to check RutherfordWX.com. From there, you can see the videos that we do when we go live, but the best thing to do is to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you know when we are live on the Rutherford Weather Channel on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitch. There are also posts that go out on X as well as Instagram. So be sure to check RutherfordWX.com. Some pretty cool things there too, not only your forecast and radar, future radar, current conditions, but you can listen to NOAA Weather Radio and some of the forecast tools that were used here for this video. You can actually see links to those at RutherfordWX.com. For meteorologist Justin Bailey, I'm Bryan Barrett. Thanks for joining us here on the Rutherford Weather Channel. Be sure to tell your friends about us so they will know where to get local Rutherford County weather updates.